Good morning, everybody. I'm Josh Silver. I'm a co-founder of Rebrand Washington Football. We are an advocacy organization that asked the team to change its name, and we are here today because things are going in the right direction. The racial slur that was the name of the team has been dropped, and now, after 87 years. Now the team is called the Washington Football Team, but they have not indicated what the final name is going to be. So that is why we're here. And we are going to do a lot of remarks before I talk in more detail. So the final chapter has not been written, and that's why we are here. And we are asking the team, you have to stay away from Native American names and Native American mascots, because Native Americans are people, not mascots. Let's say it again. Native Americans are people, not mascots. So we're going to start with a prayer with my friend Joe Gaines, who's Choctaw, and then after the prayer, I'm going to make some more introductory remarks, and then we're going to have remarks from some other people.
Hello, my name is Joe Gaines. I'm a Choctaw, southeast Oklahoma. I'm going to burn this sage and purify ourselves real quick. Pass this around. We believe that sage purifies and cleanses ourselves inside and outside. We believe that the Creator likes the smell of sage, and the evil things doesn't like the smell of sage. So in that way, that's kind of really a quick translation of it. So in that way, we'll ask that people just sage themselves off, and people do it in different ways, and that's fine as long as we get that around us and get that feeling of good energy around us. I want to offer this opening prayer song real quick and remind us, and I want you to know what I'm kind of saying. It's a Lakota prayer song, and if you can, just kind of pray along. I'll make it quick. It's a longer version, but I'll make it quick for us. Just kind of remember what it took to get here, the things that it took to get here, the people, the energy, and we'll talk about all that as we progress through this. Waka tonka toka hey che walk yellow hey waka tonka toka hey che walk yellow hey metaku yeb wanik tacha toka hey che walk Tonkashila toka hey che walk yellow hey Tonkashila toka hey che walk yellow hey metaku yellow wanik tacha toka hey Tonkashila, Tonkashila. Thank you for these things that you have given us today, Tonkashila, a beautiful day for this gathering, Tonkashila. And we thank you for the efforts, the time, and the money, and the energy spent on this victory, Tonkashila. Thank you for the things that it took to get us here, Tonkashila. Our ancestors, the people that came before us, all those, Susan Shone Harjo, Tonkashila. Amanda Blackhorse, and all the people that was involved in making this moment happen, even though they're not right here. But we want to bring their energy to us, Tonkashila, and touch them in a good way and let them know that we are here for them. And that they helped us to get here, they started this. So touch them, Tonkashila, so that they will know that we are here, Tonkashila. And that's the way I pray, Tonkashila, how, Matakwayas.
Good morning. As I said before, my name is Josh Silver. I'm a co-founder of Rebrand Washington Football. And we are an advocacy organization of fans who wanted the name to be changed. And our major activity over the last 5 years has been petition and gathering, educational events, and working with local governments and religious institutions to ask the team to change the name. The team has shed the racial slur as its name after 87 years. It is now called the Washington Football Team. But we don't know if the Washington Football Team is the permanent name. Daniel Snyder has made some comments that maybe it could be the permanent name, but maybe not. We are saying that the Washington Football Team must steer clear of native names, images, and logos when it chooses a new name. But we're not sure. In July, the Washington Post interviewed the team coach, Ron Rivera, and he suggested that he and the owner have already narrowed the choice to 2 or 3 names that combine Native American and military themes. Think about that for a second. It is sadly ironic to combine Native American and military themes, considering the role the U.S. military from the colonial era, the Civil War, and the post-war decades was to further the extermination of Native Americans. Academic studies and Native American activists have made it clear that any Native American images and mascots are unacceptable and damaging stereotypes. Even so-called positive names, such as warriors, are harmful as they constrain the public's view of Native American characteristics and their place in society. To atone for almost 90 years of using the racial slur as a name, the Washington Football Team must forever shed racial caricatures. Since the abandonment of the previous name, high schools around the country are shedding these names and mascots. 2,000 high schools over the last few decades have shed these names and mascots, but we still have 2,000 high schools to go. The team must continue the momentum of high schools shedding the name by announcing immediately that its new name will have nothing to do with Native American stereotypes. We are delivering a letter to Dan Snyder today, a letter from Rebrand Washington Football, asking Mr. Snyder to never use a Native American name or logo for his team. In addition to the letter, we are presenting to the team today 1,536 petition signatures that were gathered this year. And how can you gather 1,500 petitions this year in the middle of a pandemic, right? Most of this was through the internet, online petition gathering. Since 2015, Rebrand Washington Football has gathered more than 10,500 petition signatures. I'll say that again, 10,500 petition signatures. We are also presenting to the team today a resolution recently passed by the Council of Montgomery County, the Montgomery County Council, asking the team to delete its Native American name, logo, and mascot. I will quote from the resolution. George Preston Marshall, the first owner of the team, was an unrepentant bigot whose name for the team had nothing to do with honoring Native Americans, but rather pandered to the prejudices of a white fan base. That is the origin of the previous name. I am also giving to the team today, this is about 2 inches, 1.5 inches. It is the name of 1,500 Native American leaders and tribes saying, Mr. Snyder, you must never use a Native American logo and mascot. This does not honor us. 1,500 signatures. It's like people say, well, there's some Native Americans who think the name honor Native Americans. I think this is basically all the tribes and leaders in the United States of America, Native Americans. And the letter says, require the Washington team to immediately cease the use of racialized Native American branding by eliminating any and all imagery of or evocative of Native American culture, traditions, and spirituality from their team franchise, including the logo. This includes the use of Native teams, feathers, arrows, or monikers that assume the presence of Native American culture as well as any characterization of any physical attributes. Very clear, right? Very, very clear. In addition to that, we have statements from the NAACP and the Religious Action Center for Reform Judaism. The Religious Action Center for Reform Judaism is a national Jewish advocacy organization promoting social justice. I will quote from the NAACP. "We have long been opposed to racially, ethnically, and culturally offensive mascot names adopted by professional and amateur sports teams which mock an entire people. There is no place for bigoted or racist depictions against any group of Americans in society today, and certainly not in professional sports." Think about that for a second. Professional sports is watched by tens of millions of people. If you have stereotypes and demeaning mascots, what is the image that millions, tens of millions of people are going to have about Native Americans? I know something about this because I am Jewish, and I can tell you, through the centuries of human history, there have been mascots and stereotypes used to oppress Jews and justify genocide. So that is why we must eliminate mascots that stereotype any group of people. This is not only the nation's capital, the Washington, D.C. area. This is my hometown. And I take pride in my hometown. And this name has been a smear on my hometown. It is also a symbol of Americans' problem and Americans' struggle to overcome a racist past and continuing racism in our society today. Let's take a step to end racism and to eliminate these mascots from the face of our country. Thank you very much. Let's do a little chant. Let's do a little chant, and then I'll introduce new speakers. Change the name, change the logo, rebrand Washington football. You guys say rebrand Washington football. Change the name, change the logo, rebrand Washington football. Change the name, change the logo, rebrand Washington football.
Hello, my name is Ian Washburn. Just want to give a land shout out for the Piscataway people whose land we're on today. I'd also like to welcome Kali from the Washington football team, and thank you for coming out to greet us today. As a Washington football fan, there is a lot to celebrate. The harmful racial slur is gone, it would appear. The monument for George Preston Marshall is gone. Things appear to be heading in the right direction, but there's still so much work to do. There are still nearly 2,000 harmful mascots out there in our high schools, our sports teams, our social organizations, our place names. These are harmful. We need to continue to work to change this. And 88 years of a racial slur with the Washington football team that doesn't get erased in just 2 months. This is going to be a decades-long healing process. And the Washington football team needs to be proactive in helping make this change happen, acknowledging its past. The team is celebrating Bobby Mitchell, the first African-American star on the team, the man who integrated the team, who dealt with harsh hazing from then-owner George Preston Marshall. It is very important that we honor Bobby, but we need to do more to advance his legacy, and that includes helping to change mascots elsewhere, other high schools. I have decided to put the Washington football team jersey back on for the first time in 6 years. I have covered the R word with a Washington patch, but the patch is upside down. People may ask, why would you have a Washington patch that's upside down? And that's really a distress signal, because the problem is not solved. A new name has not been announced, and we need to make sure that there are no harmful Native American themes or stereotypes with that new name. On that note, thank you everybody for coming out today. Kali, welcome again, and we hope this is the last time we ever have to come out to Washington football headquarters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary, you want to come and read your letter to us?
Thank you for coming here today, and thank you for allowing us to come and present some information for you. And hopefully it gets to the people that need to hear it, because we've been saying it for so long, for many, many decades. So I want to read a letter to you and to everyone here from a small group that was founded about 2 years ago called No Name Change, No Stadium. And briefly, we're a group of Native Americans and allies who do not want this stadium to come to Washington, D.C. unless all Native American references are gone from the team's name, from the team's logo, and everything else associated, including recognitions from the past, so that the R word is never said again by this team. So, to read to you this letter, Dear Washington Football Organization and Dan Schneider, No Name Change, No Stadium opposes the Washington football team's return to DC until and unless it confirms the new name and rebrand does not have any references to Native Americans in its title, logo, or mascot. Let this occasion be marked as the beginning of the end of the acceptance of casual racism towards Native Americans when using derogatory names and mascots for sports team names. The team's former name added to prejudices for Native Americans for decades, and for the last 21 years, the organization and owner held on to what was known as a racial slur despite calls for its removal. These calls by thousands of Native Americans, Native organizations, tribal governments, media outlets, and government officials went unanswered until the investors called. Native American children and families have had to endure the psychological and dehumanizing impacts of your decision to keep the name and logo as a result of your contemptuous continued use and promotion of the R word. We are imploring your organization to immediately issue an apology to Native Americans, particularly to Native American children, for these egregious acts. The growing field of racial identity and the direct harm racialized mascots cause give further understanding of the issue and where the team's culpability lies. Attached is a short list of references of recent and long-standing scholarly articles on the subject of the negative impacts Native American mascots cause in the form of citations for your reading. The name has changed, but the harm has been done. Sincerely, No Name Change, No Stadium. Now, I also want to add that I've put in an article that is the reason why I'm wearing a red dress today. We have stolen sisters in Indian country. Stolen, being kidnapped and raped and taken and killed because we are dehumanized. We are not seen as people. We are seen as cartoonish figures that are disposable and have no purpose other than for the sake of entertainment and for men who prey on women. So I am wearing this dress today to symbolize this connection that this team name has brought to our people, and there has been no acknowledgement of that connection by this team, this organization, or Dan Schneider. So we're asking you today to make that connection. And the title of that article is How Native Mascots and Costumes Pave the Way for Violence Against Indigenous Women. Thank you.
After we did our previous petition delivery here in December, I thought I was sure we'd be coming back. I didn't know we'd be coming back so quickly and under these conditions and under somewhat happy circumstances. I really thought this was going to be a struggle that would take many, many more years. Dan Schneider was so resistant to change that we thought this would be a very difficult struggle. And then, there was the murder of George Floyd. The racial reckoning of this country came to the fore, and things happened very quickly. So we can be happy with that, but we know this would not have happened without the many decades of struggle and activism that was started by Native American activists and joined by non-Native allies. But of course, as speakers have said for me, the struggle is not over. And we are here to tell Dan Schneider and the team that they need to steer clear of all stereotyping Native names and logos, because Natives are not their toy to play around with. Playing Indian is not acceptable. This kind of casual racism was also seen in the Confederate statues and the everyday humiliation that people of color have to endure. This needs to stop. So this is our part of it. This is our place to say that the team needs to atone for almost 90 years of racism and do the right thing and retire Native logos and names for good. Thank you.
I want to say hello to everybody. My name is Peter Guadalupe Landeros. I'm a Pasquayaki Indian from southern Arizona. I grew up in this area. My parents moved here in '73, and I've been here ever since. This debate about the Washington football team's name has been going on for decades. The Tyack family, Chief Turkey, his son Billy Tyack, have been fighting this name for centuries before we even showed up here. So this has been an ongoing fight for a really long time. And it's sad that it took the sponsors of the team to pool their money for the team to say, okay, now we'll decide to do it. Instead of showing us a sign of respect as people and saying, because we respect natives, we're going to do this. But it's done. I guess I'm happy a little bit that it's no longer being used. But the question is, what's the new name? And how is that going to affect us as a people? She mentioned the murdered and missing women. That's just one aspect of the damage that is done by using us as mascots. Our youth are killing themselves at the highest rate in this country. We have drug addiction and alcoholism higher than any other ethnic group in this country. Okay? All because we're looked upon as not even citizens of this country. In the original document of the Constitution, we're less than human. That's the way we're looked at. Okay? We're cartoon characters from Cleveland to Kansas City to whatever other teams out there, including the high school teams that use us as mascots. And the logo they used to use, only 6 tribes wear war bonnet headdresses. You're not honoring my people by showing that. My tribe don't wear headdresses. There are other tribes out there that don't either. Okay? So, as much as we are here to say that, okay, the name's no longer there, there's still a huge question mark on what's it going to be. And I know one thing, it doesn't take months for the healing to happen, it takes years. As long as that name's been there, that's probably how long it's going to take for things to get changed. And I also think that the team, if they really want to honor us as people, maybe help in the fight to get this thing changed from the high school level to whatever it may be when it comes to us as a community. Start putting some of that billions of dollars of money into our communities. Okay? We got reservations that are worse than any third world countries out there. And they need the help. The money goes there, but it never gets to the people. Okay? This is a whole subject we could go on for hours, but understand, number one, what the R word really means. It's a describing word for a blood-soaked body. I am not a blood-soaked body. The people standing here aren't blood-soaked bodies. My children aren't blood-soaked bodies, and my grandchildren won't be blood-soaked bodies. I demand respect. And us as a community, we're no longer taking apologies for the insults and the ignorance of people. We want change, period. Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing I want to mention, has Dan Snyder ever met with Native American leaders? Has he ever had a moment of reconciliation, a moment of acknowledgement of the harm that this name, even if he doesn't believe it, has he ever had a moment that, yeah, I can see how this name can really be harmful, or even just listening? So the other thing we're asking Mr. Snyder to do today is meet with some of those 1,500 leaders who signed this letter asking for no Native American mascots. And yes, it may have been the corporate sponsors pulling millions of dollars, threatening to pull millions of dollars away from Dan Snyder that may have prompted him to finally do the right thing. But if Native American leaders like Susan Hardjoe and Amanda Blackhorse had not put this on the table over decades, the corporations wouldn't have known to make this demand. So in other words, change came from the street, came from the bottom up, and came from brave leaders that really literally risked their livelihoods. I mean, Amanda Blackhorse was getting threats. So it's really the brave leadership of the Native American community that got us to this place. Do we have any others that want to make remarks? Joe, do you want to make some remarks?
Joe, I can take that. Oh, you are. Okay.
What Pete referenced earlier about the blood-soaked bodies of natives. This came out in the Minnesota paper, 1885, whatever it says. There was a bounty on natives. That's where the R-skin name comes from, right there. And to further reference what some of the other people were talking about, here's the definition. In Webster Dictionary, there it is. You Google that word, Google the N word, it's exactly the same. Contemptuous term directed at Native Americans, contemptuous slang term directed at African Americans. And with all this, still it took this long. Only because of money changed Snyder's mind. Not out of humanitarian reasons, not because he thought it was the right thing to do, only because of money. I want to tell y'all a little bit about some history. If you think, oh, it's okay, it's just a picture, it's just a mascot, it's just a logo. Let me tell you a little bit about, let's go back to World War II and Nazis. There was a guy who's Strasser, Julius Strasser. Look him up and Google him just like I did. He was the editor of a newspaper, Nazi Party newspaper called Der Strammer, Der Drummer. He went to Nuremberg trials with all the rest of the guys, and he was hung because of crimes against humanity and murder. But the unique thing about Strasser was he never actually murdered anybody. They didn't prove he actually murdered anybody. He was hung because of derogatory slang, inflammatory images, and words that was put in his newspaper. And that was the United States government that was holding court against him for the very same derogatory slang, imaging, inflammatory remarks directed at Native Americans in 2020. Another part about what some of the other people said about the American Psychological Association, imagine the damage it would do to a kid, a child. Children are kind of cruel on the playground. Your daughter, your niece, getting made fun of. Ha ha ha, you're just a redskin, I saw you on TV, you lost, ha ha, and they get 3 or 4 of their friends and they're jabbing, as kids do, ha ha ha. Imagine your child coming home day after day with that. It goes back to what Pete was saying, that's how suicide comes about. There's laws against bullying. This is what the name mascot and dehumanizing natives does. Heck, natives weren't considered a person until 1887. Native Americans were not considered a person till 1887. And we had to go to court to prove it. Google it yourself. Standing Bear versus Crook in Nebraska. Standing Bear versus Crook. Had to prove they were human. Let me take this to a little bit bigger, broader perspective, something that we could all understand. This is not a native issue. This is a humanitarian issue. What is accepted in our society? What is not accepted in our society? The United States government has gone around the world proven what this is acceptable, what isn't. Now right here, 2020, we're still fighting the same thing. Thankfully, the people just like Amanda Blackhorse, Susie showing hard, Joe, Josh, Ian, others started this, Mary. Keep it going like this. That's not going to stop here. There's a lot of other issues, and it just isn't Native American issues, it's all people of color. So I want to just close out and just reaffirm with you, it's a humanitarian issue. All people have a right. Doesn't matter what color, doesn't matter what religion, doesn't matter what race, we all have a right to exist, not be made fun of, not to be discriminated against. It's a law, you can't discriminate against people. There we are. So when you're thinking about this, when you're mulling around in your mind, what's this, what's that, what's worth it, what isn't, think about these things. And how will you decide in the future your course of action or inaction? How will you explain to the people what you think, what you believe, what your ideology is on this or that? How?
I think at this time I will present to the team representative, Collie. I'm going to give her the petitions that Rebrand Washington Football has gathered this year. I'm going to hand to her the letter from 1,500 Native Americans. I'm going to give her the letter from Rebrand Washington Football, the Montgomery County Resolution, Montgomery County Council Resolution, and the NAACP letter. Thank you for coming out today, Kelly. Much appreciated. I hope Mr. Snyder looks at that. Do you want to say anything to us?
Oh no, thank you for coming. Oh yeah, thank you for this.
The letter from Mary.
Thank you for your letter.
Have a good day.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Now some of us, not me, but some of us have no Native American songs. Do we want to close out with a song or something?
I'll close out with the Lakota Victory song.
That's right.
Tonkashla, we thank you for these things, Tonkashla, this people, and we pray that you touch the hearts of the remaining names, Tonkashla, those who are in power that can change those names, Tonkashla, that you would touch their hearts and show them in a good way, Tonkashla, you can do more for them than we can, Tonkashla. You have the power over them, Tonkashla. Touch them in a good way, Tonkashla, that they would see the error of their ways and become repentant, Tonkashla. And they can see it and find it within their heart to change that name. Even with Dan Snyder, Josh said, use some of that money to help people, Tonkashla. To help people realize the discrimination in this country, Tonkashla. Even as we stand here now, Tonkashla, our own little world, our own little circle right here. All things in power move in a circle. The rest of the country, Tonkashla, is also feeling the pain of discrimination, Tonkashla, in different ways, Tonkashla. We would ask of you, Tonkashla, we are your children, Tonkashla, and we love you, Tonkashla. That you would guide us and strengthen us, and give us a safe journey home, everybody here, Tonkashla. Bless them in a kind and a gentle way, Tonkashla. In this way I pray. How?
Change the name, change the logo. Rebrand Washington Football. Change your name, change your logo. Rebrand Washington Football. One more. Native Americans are people, not mascots. 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 Thank you.